Greetings, everyone. My name is Sammarko Lightbourne, and I'm an MFA in Creative Writing student at the University of West Indies, currently residing in the Bahamas. Happy lockdown, everyone. And I will be reading my short story Petrichor for Campus Literature Week 2020. There's a name for the pleasant earthy musk that hangs in the air before, during, and after a downpour. Petrichor. But today is a burning day, so Blaine didn't bother sniffing the air. It'll make a curious sight for future generations, he mused, seeing dozens of people at any given time a day, poking their heads through windows, inhaling deeply, occasionally blowing like a bull, heads swiveling from side to side with the seriousness of a wine-tasting connoisseur. It was much easier checking the I Smell Rain app. 70 people in the last hour clicked the bone-dry button. Squinting at the calendar mounted on the rusted white fridge, the 15th was circled in red. The words, "Shop for Mr. B," scrawled below in the chicken scratch. On the 16th, Babe arrives. Through the sole-locked window bordered with duct tape, Blaine observed lazy ringlets of smoke scrape past the fire escape. Maybe after all these months, my sense of smell is heightened, he wondered. Or maybe it's a mental thing. Even with his nose plunged deeply into the half-empty mug of coffee, he still smelled the stench of burning corpses. Gianna, play BIN News. There was a loud pin before the melodic, artificial voice retorted. Now playing Good Morning Bahamas with Leslie Carey Forbes. Blaine sang at the top of his lungs in the shower until the morning stats were read by the over-enthusiastic, gravel-voiced reporter. He stopped caring for meticulous details after the Grey Death passed 1 million worldwide. Dressed and in the swing of his burning day cleaning ritual, he caught himself whistling while scrubbing the apartment with vinegar and lemon water. Not because it was effective against the contagion, but because it was therapeutic. A curious report made Blaine's lips twitch. Gianna replayed the last 30 seconds. Meanwhile, local marine biologists are reporting rapid regeneration in the Andros Barrier Reef, flamingo population is on the rise, and the government-sponsored Bahama Earth Guard subsistence farming project is now responsible for supplying the country with a record-high 35% of food. Hope is on the horizon, Bahamas. Stay strong. I'm Lester Carey Forbes, reporting live for Bahamas Island News from my living room. An eerie screech of static made Blaine look up at the flat screen where Leslie Carey Forbes drummed his fingers along a grand mahogany desk. Am I off, Knowles? Good. Getting sick of this shit. Every day. This what I come to? Said the reporter, yanking off his emerald green necktie, tossing his script behind him in resignation. Gravity was still easing them down, gently, when he strode out of the room, naked from the waist down. What in the shriveled grand spider is that? Blaine crowed. He fell flat on his stomach, cradling the broom in his hands, tears streaming down his face. He had not laughed this freely in months. He stared at the slow-churning ceiling fan with its chipped blades, cradling his ribs. At least he had cause to smile. Gray always made fun of that fan, and the fridge he had to kick open, and the unlevel cupboards, and his inability to keep any houseplant alive other than a potted cactus. She would tease Blaine endlessly while they stared at the ceiling, fingers interlaced on the pull-out bed, her talking about the future while he nodded and hummed noncommittally. But she soon grew tired of begging for commitment. For Blaine, the goalposts moved often. A better apartment, a better job, more savings. Thinking about her last words to him still pinpricked his bowels with icy needles. What if tomorrow never comes, she had said. And when the pandemic began a month later, for many, tomorrow never did. Blaine shook his head. That was over now. The uncertainty of life evaporated the puddle of insecurities that settled in his chest. The night 10,000 souls left the world in a single day, they spoke in low tones for 6 hours. Every day since, they made time to have a meal over video chat. He shamelessly kissed her through the phone and ticked the days off the calendar when she was due to take a mandatory week off from the children's hospital. One day he woke up with a text message from her, bordered by heart emojis. To think that the world needed to crumble for our universe to synchronize. Below the chip ceiling fan, on bended knee, he turned on his webcam and proposed. You coming for the ride? Blaine peered below the tattered leather couch, seeing nothing but a large pair of squash-colored eyes and the sound of an irritated hiss. Ungrateful goat. He sucked his teeth. Ginger was newly inherited from his landlady, Mrs. Hepburn, in 7B. 2 weeks ago, they had found her dead and graying, her skin so transfigured by the gray death that it favored tree bark. The police discovered a leak in the roof. That's what the love of money got you, Shirley Bow from 2A had said. She knocking round the place asking for rent like people got any job. But Lord, what a way to go. Stiff as a board, with no bloomers on, and a handful of money in her hand. All that money she banking, and a night dress full of hole. They must have carry checkbook to the kingdom, and not a chicken churn to bury her. The miserable cat had clawed so pitifully outside the window that Blaine had let him in. He did not celebrate Mistress Hepburn's passing like the rest of the building, whose glass chinking and electric sliding kept him up that night. But he was relieved for Mr. Beneby. Twice the landlady had threatened to evict the wheelchair-bound, liver-spotted man. Blaine watched the theatrics through his keyhole. He had recently taken to leaving her very official-sounding government voicemails in a deep, highfalutin voice, explaining to landlords the importance of leniency during these hard times. Scene skip. Mr. B, it's me, Blaine announced. He repeated the greetings as he eased into his neighbor's apartment and found the senior citizen pass and grocery list in the usual place on the coffee table. Mr. B was burrito wrapped in his blanket, snoring peacefully on the couch, while a dated church service in which a priest beat people into good health with the whack of his jacket played out on the too bright TV screen. There was a staleness to the room. Blaine made a mental note to give the place a nice vinegar rub-down. Blaine trotted down the stairs. The red wagon behind him, clunking noisily, always made him feel like a child, but it made the provisions dash easier. He met Mr. Moss reading an old newspaper in a picnic chair outside their unit. "My boy, you look like the male version of the Martin Salt woman," he bellowed, peering below his glasses with a wry smile. Blaine smiled back, more concerned by the disturbance beyond. The distinct sound of leather against skin was clear, as Mrs. Moss's shrill, rhythmic shouting musically interrupted licks. "I send you for heartburn pills, and you toe in line for beach party. You don't learn, you can feel. Whack, whack, whack. Anyhow, my boy, I like where you play last night. All them stories you read. Don't play no rap crap too early, eh? Let us old people go to bed first." Blaine was speechless. He had started the live DJing broadcast as a guidance counseling experiment for his students. He taught them out online, allowed them to text and call him, but it wasn't the same with schools being closed. He had well over 10,000 viewers a night, but the fact that Mr. Moss of all people listened? Blaze scurried along. The last thing he wanted was for his 16-year-old student to be embarrassed by the sight of him. Fast forwarding a section, so Blaine basically just goes to the grocery shop to get provisions for his elderly neighbor, Mr. Beneby. And, he sees Bahamian citizens really, after 8 months of this thing, being observant. They're respecting the shop policy, so he goes to get grocery, even though a few persons rolled their eye at him because he has the senior citizenship pass. And, they're just thinking he's trying to maneuver the system. He witnesses a couple arguing over budget, whether toilet paper is more important than tuna right now, so things like that. And then he goes back to the Mr. B's apartment. But when he pulls the blanket from him, he finds that Mr. B is covered in warts, and his hands are gray and molting, and he's not breathing. So he calls the ambulance. His neighbor is dead. So ski, see and skip, see and jump. If he puked any more, he would expel his soul. The ambulance's siren was a faint heartbeat when Blaine flushed the toilet and wiped the slime from his mouth. His phone buzzed incessantly. You okay, you okay, Teach? He read. Play some soca tonight, eh? Tuning in from Idaho. Tech trouble? And then his heart nearly burst. Greer was calling. Not a video call, which was odd, but the old-fashioned way. Hello, you, he said, in their normal greeting, voice as brittle as fiberglass. She called him by his name. Not Busy, not Mr. Guidance. His ragged breathing filled the void. Everyone's leaving. It's an old building, you know. And the rain, 3 days, is leaking everywhere. Your flight's tomorrow. Only a few of junior doctors, attendings, and nurses even volunteered to stay. I can't, Blaine. There are only children here. When you coming home? There are only children here. There are only children here. She repeated it like a mantra, and each time it lacerated the unnameable thing that held Blaine's sanity together. 20 past, Blaine. I want to hear you tonight. She said tonight, the way old people craving the past said one last time. Gray enabled her camera. She sat cross-legged on a gurney with a toddler asleep in her arms. As she rocked the child, the gurney squeaked, and the gentle lapping sound of water punctuated the silence. In the makeshift studio, sectioned off in the living room by 3 flimsy shower curtains, Blaine clicked the on-air button. He could have been coughing up shards of blade for the pain the words caused him. All he could say to the world was Mr. B's favorite advice to him. It takes a lot of courage to live. Thank you.